You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. And do you remember a few weeks ago I was inveighing, well, I was always inveighing, but I was inveighing in particular against a new Trump administration, if you can call it that, ruling that was recategorizing nurses. They were no longer considered professionals. Yeah, they really, oh God. And so anyway, to deal with that, because I was making my life an insanity, but I was so upset. We have a wonderful, guess what, nurse with us today, Brittany Neal DiNatale. She's been an emergency room nurse in the D.C. metro area since 2012, but she left her position as vice president of marketing and business development for a tech startup to go into nursing. And while it was a big change, she has no regrets. Now she uses her skills in marketing and business development to amplify and engage the voice of nurses in healthcare improvement efforts. And God knows we need them. So I will be back right away, very soon, very shortly, with Brittany DiNatale in just a moment. Subscribe to this program on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Follow us on Twitter at WMC Live, like our Facebook page at facebook.com/WMC Live, and visit us at WMCLive.com for more information about our show and our guests.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Brittany Neal DiNatale. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, you can just call me Britt DiNatale.
Brittany Neal. That's terrific.
Yes.
Well, Robin Morgan. Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm very glad that you're here. And I'm so glad that we're talking about nurses today and that you are a primary advocate for nursing, and you have been an emergency room nurse in the D.C. metro area since 2012. But now you've picked up the cudgels and you're wading into the center area because you left that position and also left the position of vice president of marketing and business development for a tech startup to go into nursing. And then, well, that was a big change. Now you're using your skills on behalf of nurses, and you've got this new wonderful organization, and you have a website, and we'll talk about all of that. But welcome, and let's talk about nurses.
Happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Well, I mean, I was one of those who went out on the streets during COVID, banging my pots and pans in support of the nurses at a nearby hospital who would totter out at shift change and with their eyes looking hollow and ready to drop, and they would continue and go back in and do more. I mean, they were incredible. And the idea of self-sacrificial Florence Nightingale, give it all up for the good, is not functional anymore. It's just there's too much to do, and there's too much doing, and it's too specialized, and it's too specific. And I don't know how you guys do it. I swear to God.
Yeah, I think it's it's an interesting through line in that, of course, like there is so much given in nursing care, right? That is seen and recognized in that hero narrative that we saw in COVID. And that is still true. Like that is absolutely, the nurses are giving it all. But I think what is more challenging is recognizing and calling out some of the complexity in what they are doing so that it doesn't become a simple story, because it is much more complicated than that. And I think that's really important to call out and recognize because it affects how we do healthcare going forward.
Oh, that's fascinating. Say more about that.
what we're doing in nursing, I think the complexity of it is just simply undervalued. And I think part of that is on us as nurses, in that it is challenging to articulate what we do. But the reality is that it is much more than just caring for patients, right? It is much more
Oh,
than just holding hands. And yet somehow that is the easiest way to just classify it, because people feel something with nurses, right? They feel that care that is being given. But the reality is that we know through science, right, that what nurses are doing in terms of monitoring patients has a huge impact on how they survive, to be honest, how successfully they come out of the hospital and stay out of the hospital, right?
right, right.
In nursing care, you are advocating for your patients, you are educating patients and families, you are facilitating multidisciplinary teams, you are collaborating, you are delivering the care, right? There is so much that is going on. And
Yeah.
I think we have to acknowledge that in the role that it plays in a healthcare system that is evolving and changing rapidly. And if we don't keep up with explaining how we play a role in that, we are devaluing ourselves and doing ourselves a disadvantage.
It seems to me that you should have to explain the role that you play that is slightly hilarious and also very sick, because it ought to be self-evident, but of course
Mhm.
it's not. But and it's everything. It is simply everything. I mean, it is um, uh, everything that the doctor knows and doesn't admit that he knows, or if it's a he, and more. And it's
Mhm.
care. It's sure it's TLC, it's tender loving care, but it's such professional capacity. And
Mhm.
that makes it all the more obscene that the Trump administration, let's talk about this, recategorize nursing as a profession. It didn't,
Yeah.
how did you talk about that? That made me a crazy woman. I went
Yeah.
running down the street screaming. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's. I mean, it's really problematic on a variety of fronts. But the reality is that the Trump administration is attempting to reclassify nursing as not a professional category, and what it impacts is graduate loan programs. So, what it would functionally do is reduce the amount of federal loans and federal loan forgiveness programs that nurses have access to, because it would reduce the cap significantly. So in dollars and cents, like that, it is very obvious on paper, but in reality, what it means is that it just got a lot harder and a lot more expensive for nurses to continue their education, to become the graduate and undergraduate qualified, certified, well-educated professionals that they are. And that is, the reality is that you have to have an education, and most nurses have multiple certifications to go along with that. And there are all kinds of specialties and graduate programs that give us nurse practitioners, that give us nurse anesthetists, that give us nurse midwives.
Hmm.
These are the people delivering care frontline, particularly in rural and underserved communities. And we are diminishing not only their status visibly, but their actual practical ability to get the education that they need to continue to deliver the care. And
My
that's a huge problem.
God, what do they think will happen? I mean, what do they think? They think that you'll just wander into ORs and emergency rooms for that matter, and opine about something without knowing it, or do they think that you just won't be there at all? Or what do they think? Do they think that this service is magically performed? What?
Yeah, I think that's where the visibility piece ties right back in, right? I think that's where we
Uh-huh.
have to be a little bit louder and a little bit more vocal about what it is we do, because I think it's easy for us to take that quiet backseat role of like, we're here keeping it all together, which is in reality what we're doing, right? But if we don't stand up and say that, then these types of things can fly. I mean, this is not flying under the radar, right? This has got the entire nursing community up in arms. But
Good.
we have to realize that, like, these are the people delivering your care, and
Right.
they will disappear. Like, that's just the reality. Like, these people are this problem will be felt by every member of the community very quickly, if we start to affect the pipeline of nurses that can deliver care and give you good, specialized care, right? Like, these are graduate loan programs that this particular uh, proposal would really severely impact. And those are the people that you are relying on. The nurse practitioners across the country are doing a lot to improve throughput and to improve wait times. Like they are delivering actual care, and we have to acknowledge that for what it is.
They run doctors' offices. I mean,
Yeah,
they're doing literally everything. I mean, the idea that you could just sort of wash your hands of them and hope that they would go away quietly is absurd. It's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. So that I think this, this proposal ultimately devalues that critical contribution to healthcare that nurses are making. And I think we have to be at an inflection point where we acknowledge that nurses play a much more significant role in how we deliver and successfully execute healthcare in this country. And it is a struggle. And this is going to put us back several steps and going in the wrong direction.
Oh God. Did I, I thought of when Mr. Pettit in Minneapolis was killed.
Mm,
He was a male nurse, and I thought, well, that's a way at least of bringing nurses into the dialogue. I mean, so that they realized the work that he was doing was important work, and he was a male, and yet because they had to qualify it by saying he was a male nurse,
hmm.
because nursing is so deeply identified with women. I mean,
Yes.
as a first career, as just, the thing that women do. Florence Nightingale and Clara Barton, and that you had to identify it specifically as male when men went into it. Um, but it didn't scratch the surface of what happened to him. Um,
Yeah.
this is
It's
incredible.
it's interesting. I think you mentioned that I've had a bit of a winding road in my career path, and I'm what is commonly referred to as a second degree nurse, in that I changed careers at
Hmm,
midlife and
hmm.
went back to school to become a nurse. I started out in the corporate world, just
Uh-huh.
kind of followed into the path of least resistance, partly because I felt also that nursing was a female career, right? That felt too of the norm of what
Hmm.
the world expected me to do, and
Right.
I didn't, I wanted to be different in my in my early 20s. And it was a journey for me, and part of it was a wake up call to realize uh, what nurses do is amazing.
Oh,
And it
it's
is not simple, and it is not this boring female profession. Like when I started to realize like the impact that nurses have, and the actual control that they have in
hmm.
what is really happening at the end of the day, right? They have so many arms in so many directions, essentially as like air traffic control,
Yeah,
right? Managing all of these pieces, and they have to know so many things about what is happening to be that central point that is advocating and facilitating for the patient, not just delivering care. I think it really drew me in to say, oh, this is cool. Like
yeah.
this is science. This is connecting with people. This is getting to be an advocate. Like all of these pieces of like feeling like I'm doing something that matters in the world is what brought me in.
That's right. They all were on call. It's a very sophisticated and complex role to play. It's extraordinary. And I'm thinking of a particular nurse practitioner who I know who was in my surgeon's office when I had uh, deep brain stimulation, which was quite a story.
Mm,
Because you were awake the whole time, and there were nurses chatting with you, and I was chatting with them. It was fantastic.
mhm.
Um, but they they were so involved. They were so
Yeah.
compassionate. And I remember one of them said to me, "The perfect is the enemy of the good."
Yeah.
I mean, they had these wonderful little nuggets of wisdom that they came out with at the same time. But
Yeah.
but mostly they always knew what they were doing, and they
Yeah.
always knew what it was you needed before you even knew. And I just I was saying to you, before we went on the air that I always am very glad when they take bloods because blood samples taken by a doctor will leave you like a pincushion. And whereas with if it's taken by a skilled nurse, you won't even feel it. It's wonderful. It's like Dracula. It's just in and out. And and
Yeah.
but they're seriously such an array of skills, such a combination in balance with cheer and warmth and humanity is an extraordinary job, and it should be declared in any way, shape, or form less than professional is
Yeah.
outrageous.
Yeah, it's I mean, I love that you call that out. And I think honestly, 99% of the population has some type of story when you talk about nurses, right? Where they have had some similar experience or interaction that is memorable and close to their heart as well. And it's because nurses are at the front line, they are delivering the care. They are the largest segment of the healthcare workforce. They are the closest to the community in every way, partly in just sheer numbers, partly in their proximity to the patient, right? They are the ones
Right.
actually delivering and at the side of the patient the most frequently, hands down. And so it's so important that we continue to advance the workforce in a meaningful way, both in terms of its professional its professionalism, right, which we need to work on and make sure that that is recognized and has status, but also in terms of bringing people into the profession, right? We are struggling to keep the pipeline sufficiently open to keep the nursing profession well staffed. We have a lot of work to do to make sure that the underserved communities are well represented within nursing ranks, right? We have to continue to
Right.
do the work to make sure that we are doing everything we can to help the profession thrive and flourish, because it is the backbone.
Yeah, of course it is. And if it's not there, there's a vast gaping hole in the middle of the system that cannot be filled by anybody else. I mean,
Correct.
it's just it is not fillable. Well, how do you plan to do this? What is your um, how are we combating
What do we do?
The Trump administration's declaring that, oh, this most trusted profession of all professions is, guess what? Not a profession.
Yeah. I think the most pressing thing is exactly this specific issue that is at the forefront right now. It is an issue that is going through the Department of Education, and it is not completely finalized yet. And so I think right now the urgency is around asking everyone to reach out to their congressional representatives
Hmm.
and make sure that their voices are heard. We need, as nurses, for you to stand up and say nurses matter. And we need to call some attention to the fact that this matters and this is a real problem and this is going to affect me and my family, right? You don't have to say in the third person that, like, I believe nurses are important. You can say in the first person, nurses impact my health and my family's health and my community's health. Like,
And
that is a true statement, right? Yeah.
my life. I mean,
So I think, and in this particular juncture, reaching out and making sure that your voice is heard in the political arena, as well as in any type of like local media or platforms that you have to be able to have a voice to raise attention around this. I think it's
hmm
really, really important to find those channels to reach out and make sure that that voice is heard. That you care about this.
Well, we can definitely do that. My listeners are known for listening with one ear and having a pencil poised in the other hand,
I love that.
ready to write away. But if there's more that they should be doing, you must tell us because we'll try to do it. And
Yeah.
this is a real life and death matter. I mean, this is um, everybody talks about the shortage of doctors. Well, if we didn't have nurses, let me put it this way: if we had enough nurses, we might need fewer doctors. And but it's shocking that the administration should literally think that. I
Yeah.
think it exposes what is a continuing distaste for living things, for health, for anything that. I mean, when you have Robert F. Kennedy being your
Uh,
Secretary of Health, you got problems. So
yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, no, we're up against some huge challenges on a variety of fronts, right? I think that's the reality, and it's overwhelming. To be
yeah,
perfectly honest, it's overwhelming to me too, right?
yeah.
There is just so much right now, but I think
And you waded right in. You just thought, oh, there's so much right now. Well, I'll roll up my sleeves and wade in.
yes. Yeah, I mean, part of my mission right now is around doing the things that help engage nurses in their work, right? So that they stay within the profession, because there are so many deterrents right now that make people essentially, burn out and forget why they got in this profession in
Yes.
the first place. And so
Okay.
that is one of my missions right now, is trying to help the nursing community reconnect with why it is what we're doing, why it matters, why we're here.
Well,
But I
that's
think for
beautiful.
the larger community, there is also a lot that can be done in terms of just advancing the conversation, right? Having those opportunities to acknowledge out loud that nurse that you remember that did something for your family did a lot more than just hold their hand,
Oh
right?
God,
and
yes.
and being sure to make sure that that gets spoken. And I think having that be becoming part of the narrative and part of the broader public conversation, anything we can do around that, I think, is also really helpful.
Mm. Well, it's yeah, keep us posted for God's sake, because you lose. There's some professions that or jobs even that are important, but you can imagine life without. And then there are
Mhm.
some that you simply you can't. There's no filling it. There's no opportunity to advance it. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And this is one of them. I mean, so when we went outside with our little pots and pans and banged for the nurses at St. Vincent's Hospital when they changed shifts, we knew what we were doing. But banging pots and pans isn't enough. It's lovely. It's support. That's good, but bringing them cupcakes is not enough. So
Yeah.
we've got to organize. You're underpaid. You're overworked. And
Which unfortunately is the least of our problems.
oh my God, oh that's
No,
that, that
it is a it is a struggling profession. And I think what I want people to hear is that nurses aren't afraid of the hard work. Like that's what we're there for, right?
yeah,
Like I
you can
think
see that around all around you.
Right, right. So it's like we don't mind working hard, and like nobody goes into nursing to get rich, right? Like that's not what we're there for. And I think we need to figure out how to like advance the conversation around the value that we bring. So I think that's really what I want to keep like coming back to, is making sure that that part gets brought to the forefront. That there is a real value that nurses are bringing here, and we have to acknowledge that as part of the equation.
And Britt, do you go places and do you lecture and do you organize and do you
I
get it
do.
out?
I do. I do some speaking and some writings. That's always at the forefront. I also am working with different organizations on different types of projects to try
Mm.
to really make sure that we are reaching the nurses where they are with what they need. So it can look a little bit different depending on the situation. But I love being in the weeds with my nursing community and doing everything I can to try and build them up. It's
You
really important.
sound fantastic. You sound just absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Well,
I did
no.
want to mention, just I think for those that do have the pencil in hand,
Yes.
I believe it is HR1, which is easy to remember,
Mm-hmm.
but it is the Department of Education, and it
Mm-hmm.
is the graduate loan category that is being proposed to be altered, where nurses will be simply in the graduate category and not the professional category. And that
Mm,
that movement is from professional to graduate, and the change of that category is the thing that we need to raise very specific awareness around. So I just want to make sure folks have that detail, that is, if you want to do something right now,
yes,
that is the item. It is the Department of Education graduate loan cap, by changing nurses out of the professional category.
that is very helpful and wonderful. And you hear all that, listeners? Grab those pencils and start writing in. No, we've got to do something. There's so much we've got to do about, but this is definitely, I think, top of the pile, because without this, there's no health. There's no way to go on. I mean, we need our nurses. We are our nurses, and they are us.
Yeah.
So I thank you. I thank you for everything that you're doing, Britt, and for being out there, and for having been in an emergency room. My God, emergency room. Whoa. And for doing what you're doing now, which is another form of emergency room nursing.
I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate you drawing some attention to the conversation. It means a lot.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, and thank you for being with us on Women's Media Center Live. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to take a quick break here, but I will be back in just a moment with some words that will, well, make you, it'll take your breath away. That's what it'll do. Yeah. The Women's Media Center founded in 2005 by Jane Fonda, Gloria Steinem, and myself, is a progressive, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization working to make women visible and powerful in media. You can learn more about the WMC at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Better hold your breath. Those are fighting words. Now, this is a short piece, and I'm going to read it to you in its entirety, which ran in the New York Times. It was written by Bill McKibben, and it ran on the 2nd of, February 22 of this year. So, here we go. And I'm reading it in its entirety because it's really good and smart and tight. It fell to Doug Burgum, once the governor of North Dakota and now the Secretary of the Interior, to offer something resembling a scientific explanation for the Trump administration's decision to rescind the Environmental Protection Agency's, quote, endangerment finding, which states that greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, pose a risk to the planet's health. Quote, CO2 was never a pollutant, Burgum said. When we breathe, we emit CO2. Plants need CO2 to survive and grow. They thrive with more CO2, period, close quote. Now, considering that in recent weeks, Burgum has also appeared in a cartoon with a lump of coal known as Coley, mine baby mine, on social media, such reasoning is perhaps the best that one can hope for. It's roughly the equivalent of explaining to a drowning person that you are not going to throw him a lifeline, a preserver, or whatever, because water is a building block of life. Carbon dioxide is, in fact, among the most dangerous substances at work on the Earth. As it collects in the atmosphere from the burning of fossil fuels, it is rapidly raising the Earth's temperature, melting its poles, and setting off endless rounds of flood and fire. The latest warning came this past week from a global team of scientists who noted in a journal paper that, quote, we may be approaching a perilous threshold with rapidly dwindling opportunities to prevent dangerous and unmanageable climate outcomes, period, close quote. Indeed, recent weeks have produced predictions that a new El Niño is in the offing for later this year, and with it, the near certainty of new and dire temperature records. Given all that, the decision to terminate the EPA's findings, which the agency issued in 2009, 2 years after the Supreme Court ruled in Massachusetts versus EPA, that greenhouse gases are pollutants under the Clean Air Act. It has to rank as one of the signal moments in America's descent into idiocracy. Literally, every major scientific organization in the world, not to mention every other U.S. president since 1988, and even all the largest oil companies have acknowledged the dangers of greenhouse gases. The decision is of a piece with the Trump administration's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and its efforts to disconnect satellites and monitoring stations, including in December the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder that the world has relied on to track changes in the planet's chemistry and temperature. That's it. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. And that's our show for this week. You can follow me on social media at The Robin Morgan. You can check out my blog at robinmorgan.net, and you can find my new novel, Parallax, and my just-out new book of poems, Harvesting Darkness, wherever books are sold. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Executive producer, as well as founding and sustaining sponsor, Regina K. Scully. WMC president and co-executive producer for this program, Julie Burton. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Join us next time on Women's Media Center Live.